All right, so this week we got the Yuba County 5, referred to as America's Dyatlov Pass incident.
On the night of February 24th, 1978, a group of 5 friends from Yuba City, California went to watch a basketball game at California State University in Chico. The group consisted of Gary Mathias, age 25, Jack Madruga, age 30, Theodore Weir, age 32, Jack Hewitt, age 24, and William Sterling, age 29. This group of 5 friends often referred to themselves as the Boys. Unfortunately, the boys didn't return home that night. Their families became worried, leading them to contact the police the next day. But before we continue with the disappearance, let's get into some background on the boys. Ted Weir was the oldest of the group and was a very friendly person. Jack Hewitt was the youngest of the group. He couldn't read or write and was often slow to respond to people. Hewitt thought of Weir like a brother, and the two were inseparable. Jack Madruga fought in Vietnam but was let off in 1977 after a medical evaluation. He was never officially diagnosed as intellectually disabled, but was considered slow. He owned a 1969 Mercury Montego, which he loved and wouldn't let anyone drive. William Sterling was very religious and was known to visit mental hospitals to read the Bible to patients. William considered Madruga to be his best friend, but was also very close with Weir. The last member, Gary Mathias, was also part of the army in the past and was stationed in Germany, but was honorably discharged after being diagnosed with schizophrenia. It should be noted that they all suffered from some sort of mental disability. As a result, they were part of the Yuba City Gateway program, a rehabilitation center where disabled people would go to learn skills and trades. The boys were big fans of basketball and even played on the center's basketball team, the Gateway Gators. They were part of a regional tournament, which if they won, they would be given a free week in Los Angeles. Their next game was to be played on February 25th, the day after they went to watch the college game.
So there's characters in a book.
Mm-hmm.
Tatted on my arm. But is a character, and it spells the name Matthias.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool.
I don't have anything to say about the case.
Interesting.
A little fun fact about me.
With the background set, let's get back into the disappearance. After the boys' families contacted the police, Yuba County Sheriff Lance Ayers put out a nationwide bulletin about the missing boys. This was a personal case for Lance because he had gone to school with Ted Weir. Soon after posting the bulletin, several people called saying that they saw the boys at the game, and some saw them after the game leaving in Madruga's Montego. A woman called saying that she saw the boys come into her corner store a few minutes before closing to grab snacks and then left just before it began to snow. 4 days later, on February 28th, a forest ranger found Madruga's Montego abandoned in Plumas National Forest. The car was found unlocked with the windows rolled down. Inside, police found snack wrappers covering the seats, maps in the glove compartment, and a quarter tank of fuel left. Strangely, it was found that the low-sitting car had minimal damage to the underbody and the low-hanging muffler despite driving so far on a rocky road. Police couldn't find the keys, forcing them to hotwire the car to drive it back to Oroville. With enough fuel in the tank and the car starting perfectly fine, the police wondered if it had gotten stuck, but this also wasn't the case. While this discovery brought some light onto the disappearance, the location it was found raised more questions than answers. After the basketball game, the boys could have taken Highway 70 south, straight through Oroville, and end up back in Yuba City. But when they made it to Oroville, the boys went up the Oroville-Quincy Highway, which takes them back up north to Plumas National Forest. Once the road ended, they continued up a dirt road and eventually stopped in the middle of the road.
Also, like I mentioned earlier, the kid loved his car. Madruga loved his car, and they don't think he would take it willingly up. That's like I would never take
your car up.
I would
fucking refuse to take the Fusion.
I would never take the Fusion up Janus Road. Never. I love my car, but this guy loved his car. Like, I've let people drive my car before. I think I let you drive my car once, but this kid would not let anyone drive his car.
Forest rangers began a search for the boys, but it was called off after 5 days due to a severe blizzard. After hearing about the disappearance, a man named Joseph Shones contacted the police to say that he saw the boys. On the night of February 28th, Shones was driving up the same dirt road back to his cabin. His car eventually got stuck in the snow, and when he tried pushing out, he suffered a mild heart attack, causing him to head back into his car with the hope that help would come. Sometime later, he started hearing a strange whistling sound, and he looked out to see several men and a woman with a baby standing in front of car headlights down the road. Joseph called out for help. Suddenly, the car headlights went out and he couldn't see the group of people anymore. A few hours later, his car ran out of gas and the heat went out, forcing him to walk 8 miles down the road to get help. During the walk, he would pass the Montego but thought nothing of it. This story is very strange and it didn't answer any questions.
What do you think
What
of the
the
story?
fuck? Mild heart attack, then he walks 8 miles?
Don't look too much in this story because we'll talk a little bit more about it later.
Almost 4 months later, on June 4th, a breakthrough in the case occurred. A group of motorcyclists noticed a broken window on a Forest Service trailer almost 11 miles away from where Madruga's car was found. The distance is a common misconception about the case. Every source states that the trailer was 19 miles away from the Montego, but author Drew Breeson measured it and determined it's closer to 11 miles.
And there's also a lot of misconceptions. Like I said, the 11 miles turned into 19 miles. That's a big thing. Like, everybody talks about how it's 19 miles away, and he's the only person that I've seen that actually measured it and determined it as 11 miles.
The cyclists looked inside the window and were horrified to see that underneath several layers of blankets lay the decomposing body of Ted Weir. It was determined that Weir had lost almost 80 pounds on his 200-pound frame, and he had a long, unkept beard, suggesting he was alive for a few months before passing. It was also found that Weir's shoes were missing, and as a result, his feet had severe frostbite. It was determined that he died from starvation and exposure. In the trailer, they would also find empty Army C rations on the floor and also found Gary Mathias's shoes. The rations were taken from the storage shed that was outside the trailer, but also in the shed is an unlocked cabinet with dehydrated food inside, which would have been enough to feed a small group for a year.
Yeah, he starved to death, but he had C rations and dehydrated food.
Yeah, they didn't eat the dehydrated
did he choose
food.
to starve? Yeah, did he choose to starve to death?
I don't... You know, when you're about to fucking die, I think your instincts would take over your
You would fucking eat leather.
That's what I'm saying.
There was also no evidence that anyone had tried to start a fire or cover the broken window. Furthermore, there was a full propane tank out back that could have heated the trailer for weeks, but it was never turned on. The next day, the bodies of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found a few miles away from the trailer in the direction of the car. Madruga's body had been partially eaten and was dragged by animals, but the only thing left of Sterling was his bones. It was determined that they had died from exposure. 2 days later, Jack Hewitt's backbone was found and his skull was found close by. It was also determined that he died from exposure. Hewitt's remains were found much closer to the trailer than Madruga's and Sterling's. Not even a mile northwest of the trailer, 3 wool service blankets along with flashlights were found lying beside the road. Unfortunately, the body of Gary Mathias has never been found. One detail that I want to mention is that the Yuba County Police had refused to help the Forest Service Department look for the boys. Also, family members of the boys have claimed that they feel the police could have done more in their investigation.
It's just weird. They didn't try and start a fire. They didn't turn on the propane tank. The propane tank, all you had to do was twist the knob to turn it on.
Yeah.
That's all you had to fucking do.
I mean, I could see someone from this generation not knowing how to turn on a propane tank.
Yeah, but even though they had their
70s,
you know, they're people with mental disabilities. They're not fucking vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could think.
With all of this established, let's start looking at the theories. Our first theory is that the boys took a wrong turn and got lost in the mountains. This is the belief by the police. They theorized that the boys took a wrong turn in Oroville and ended up on the Oroville-Quincy Highway, which took them into Plumas National Forest. While on the dirt road, Madruga's car would eventually get stuck in a snowdrift. Having no choice, they left the car and walked into the freezing cold night to find safety. Bill Sterling and Jack Madruga would succumb to exposure during the hike and would die on the way. The other boys would push on and found the service trailer. They broke the window, and once inside, Ted Weir would rest on the bed, where he stayed while frostbite ravaged his feet. In the storage shed outside, Mathias and Hewitt found the army rations, and the 3 ate them for the next few weeks. But they didn't eat any of the other food because they were scared of getting in trouble. With Weir's feet succumbing to gangrene, Hewitt and Mathias left in search of help for their friend. Mathias would take Weir's more suitable boots and would leave his own shoes in the trailer. Hewitt would die not too far away from the trailer, and Gary Mathias would die in a location where his remains would never be found. While this theory seems plausible, it doesn't make much sense. While each of the boys had their own mental disabilities, they were still able to think. There would be no reason for the boys to not turn around supposing they did get lost. Jack Madruga's family stated that Jack would know to turn around if he was lost. It's also worth noting that Jack's car was his prized possession. It's hard to imagine that he would willingly take a rough dirt road littered with rivets and bumps without turning around. There is also little proof that their car did get stuck in the snow, and if it did, they were a group of 5 able-bodied men who could probably get it out. Also, if they were forced to leave because they couldn't get it unstuck, Jack definitely would not have left a window down on his car. Here's a quote from Jack Madruga's mother. Quote, "Things aren't right. They, the investigators, want to say they, the boys, got stuck, walked out like a bunch of idiots, and froze to death. Why would they leave their car to go die? There's no sense to that theory." End quote.
Like, this one's just not good. And the police were just fucking... I mean, honestly, it's kind of just being lazy. Like, saying they got lost. Mm-hmm. No, they didn't get lost. Or maybe they did get lost.
I mean, they made their way there.
Yeah. They could also...
Obviously, they'd be like, this is the wrong way.
Yeah.
Our second theory is aliens.
Oh my god, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Some people speculate that the boys were chased by aliens.
Chased?
Yep. And that's the end of the theory.
Are you serious?
Yep, that's the end of it.
There's more. You're joking.
No, that's the end.
All right, next theory.
It's good to talk about the theory. I didn't say
what do you want us to talk about?
I'm just saying.
No, actually, statistically, flying saucers usually do steer their victims off onto dirt roads from highways. And then every alien case, they leave the window down.
I'm just stating the theory.
Yeah.
Our third theory is that somebody chased them into the mountains. There was a report that the boys witnessed a woman being harassed by a group of men in the parking lot after the game and went to her aid. A fight would break out, and when the boys fled in their car, they were followed. In Oroville, they would be chased up the highway leading to the National Forest. Eventually, their car would get stuck, and the boys would run on foot. This theory seems plausible, but this report was never confirmed as being true. Even if this confrontation did happen, why would the boys have stopped at the store to get snacks after? Going even further, this doesn't explain why the boys didn't try and start a fire or eat more of the food in the shed.
Also, if you're being chased, why wouldn't you just go back home and then go to a police station?
Even without the reported fight, it's possible that the boys were just targeted and chased by a group that wanted to harass them. As stated, the boys were at a Chico State Wildcats game, but were UC Davis Aggies fans, and the Aggies won that particular game. It's sad to say, but with all the boys being disabled in some way, they may have been thought of as an easy target by some upset Wildcats fans, and were chased into those woods.
They looked normal. But like, I'm just saying, like, if they're dudes. Like, if they are cheering or whatever, I don't know. Maybe they were like, somebody was like sitting in front of them and somebody was like, shut up. They turned around and said, shut up to them. And then they started talking and they were like, oh, these people are disabled. They'll be an easy target. It's sad to say, but people are that shitty. I'm not trying to be a dick to disabled people, but it's just.
Yeah, you are.
Fuck off.
Many people use Joseph Schoen's sighting as evidence that the boys were with somebody that night, but the whole sighting may have never happened. Joseph Schoen has changed his story multiple times. The first time he told the story, he saw only one car, and then later added in that he saw a red truck as well. Schoen himself even said that he may have been hallucinating because of how much pain he was in. All of this points to the fact that Schoen may not be a credible source.
So, it's not good when even you're like, yeah, I wouldn't fucking listen to me.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, some dude having a heart attack in the middle of the woods.
Our final theory is that Gary Mathias had a mental breakdown and killed the boys. Unlike the rest of the boys, Gary Mathias had a violent past. He reportedly has been in multiple bar fights, has punched a police officer in the face, and can reportedly become violent because of his schizophrenia. Some of the boys' families had resentment towards Gary because of his past use with drugs, which is why he was going to the Yuba City Gateway program. Some speculate that Gary convinced Madruga to drive into the Plumas National Forest where he had a mental breakdown and killed the other boys. But this theory lacks any actual evidence. The past few years leading up to the disappearance, Gary was very good at taking his meds and reportedly only had a few episodes. Even though Gary was thought of as an outlier of the group, he cared for the others. He was also just as excited to play in the basketball game the next day as the other 4 were. The rations that were eaten inside were opened with a P38 can opener, which only Madruga and Mathias would have known how to use. There was also no sign of foul play on any of the bodies.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't believe this. I don't believe it at all. There's no evidence, and it just doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And why would he take them so far away just to kill them?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
If we were driving back from a basketball game and you're like, "Hey, let's go down this dirt road at 10 at night," I'd be like, "Fuck no."
Yeah. Fuck no.
Like, what? I'm going home. If I had to pick one, it'd be a third one.
Yeah.
It would not be fucking aliens.
Honestly, I think aliens is more believable than them getting fucking lost.
Yeah.